Hi, Vicky. Welcome to this chat with City Times, Khaleej Times.
Hi, Ambika. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, Vicky, first of all, we want to ask you, in Rasi, we saw you as you played a Pakistani army officer with absolute grace. And then you went on to do Yuri, where you played a para special forces major with a bit of melodrama, if we may say so. And then you're also acting as Field Marshal Sam Manakshaw in a biopic. And now, in a couple of days' time, we're going to see you in Sardar Udham. So, what is it that attracts Vicky Kaushal to roles with a bit of patriotic flavor in them?
Uh, I think it's just organically happening that way. I think I get attracted with the stories that they have to say. The stories attached to those characters is what attracts me. The filmmakers attached to those stories attract me a lot. And I think organically it's just falling in place like that, that you feel like a series of patriotic films are coming out. And I have no regret with that also, because as an audience, I love watching patriotic films. I love watching films that touches those chords in my system. And if I get to play parts in such stories, I really jump at them. And but mainly I don't see them as, okay, it's a patriotic film, I got to do it. But I see them as stories, independent stories, and if they touch the right chords in my system, then I jump at it.
Okay. And what was it about Sardar Udham that appealed to you when you first heard the script?
For me, belonging to a Punjabi family, Sardar Udham is a folklore that I've been hearing since a kid. So it was almost like, a kid who's been hearing a story of a Raja and a Rani from his grandmother, and then eventually 20 years later getting to play that Raja. It's that sort of a surreal feeling for me. I've been hearing these stories since I was a child, and eventually to get the opportunity to play that legendary part was a dream come true for me.
Okay. But Vicky, for a lot of people, I know there are lots of, I'm sure kids in India grow up reading about history, but still he's a character probably a little bit on the fringes. So are you hoping that the movie would kind of, make him like a figure that people can relate to, especially the modern generation?
100%. I feel there are so many unsung heroes in our history of Indian freedom movement, that who have actually sacrificed their lives so that we can live in a free democratic country. And it is our moral responsibility to come out with books and films and songs about these legends, where we can keep them alive, and we can pass them on, pass their stories to the generations to come. It is important for us to know the kind of sacrifices that have gone in our past for us to be living in a free country, and that's what our humble efforts have been through this.
Okay. Is that also how you would explain the relevance of a movie like this coming out at a time when the world over? I'm sure you had. I mean, the timing was not planned out in such a way, but the whole world is going through a lot of turmoil, and especially in India with the cases and everything. So, do you think a movie like this, how relevant do you feel is it going to be for an audience which is just waiting for some form of entertainment?
See, I feel firstly the world has always been going through turmoil. And it is going through turmoil, and it will continue to go through turmoil of different natures. That is life, and that is how it's always been. It's just that we are living in a digital world where we get bombarded with information every 3 minutes, that we come to know, okay, only this is going on. It has always been going on. Secondly, I feel the relevance of the story is not because, see, I always feel that it's not a biopic of a person, it's a biopic of an ideology. Ideologies are timeless, they are always relevant, because the truth of the ideology in 1930 would be the truth now and the truth later, because the truth never changes, right? So I feel it's completely relevant. And talking about the turmoil, I think that is also like the turmoil. Like I said, I always thought that it was always there, and it is, and it will always be there.
Okay, yeah. And also when you do, I mean, characters like this, which are actually based on flesh and blood, people who have actually been alive, I know it must be more challenging mentally as well as physically. But in this particular movies, could you just take us through the physical kind of preparation that you had to do to get into the role?
Uh, I am playing Sardar Udham Singh, the 20-year-old Sardar Udham Singh, as well as the 40-year-old Sardar Udham Singh. So, yes, there were some weight fluctuations that I had to go through. I had some 2 months to kind of lose 15 kilos to look like the 20-year-old part, and then 25 days to gain it all back so that I could play the 40-year-old part. So that required its own kind of preparation. Apart from that, there was always a mental prep constantly going on to get those emotions right and get that state of mind right. Because the way that Sujit Sarkar makes his film, it's not a very verbose film. It's not a film where you're spoon fed with emotions through dialogues that, this is what I'm feeling or this is what the character is feeling. There are a lot of silences. There are a lot of moments that are created where it's only through your eyes, it's only through what you're not speaking that you have to, kind of translate those emotions. And for that, internalizing those emotions becomes very important. And that sometimes would be exhausting, sometimes would be very tricky, sometimes would be like, really go into the depths of your own inner core to explore those emotions. So that was challenging, and also the sense of responsibility that comes with doing a biopic on a freedom fighter. That, like we mentioned, that he's not one of the most popular freedom fighters, or like, well read or well elaborated in our history books, kind of a freedom fighter. So if people do resonate with this film, if people do like this film, this is how they're going to remember him.
Yes.
And that is a big responsibility when you're making that film.
Okay. Vicky, also while undergoing the preparation or reading up more about this personality, what was the one thing that really surprised you about him, which you didn't know before?
The one thing that really surprised me was this anecdote of Sardar Udham Singh had actually worked as a background artist in a British film called The Elephant Boy, which really surprised me a lot, because when you go into a film based on a freedom fighter, the last thing you expect is him working in movies. So that completely blew my mind. And then you get to see that, okay, he was a carpenter, he was a welder, he worked on ships, he worked as, of course, at the same time, parallelly, he was trying to rebuild his HSRA group across the globe. It's just bizarre for a person to kind of like, do all these things at the same time.
Yes, yes, yeah. And also, something that we wanted to ask you was that how do you feel about this finally releasing on an OTT platform?
See, we are living in different times, and I think one thing that has happened in the past 18 months of us being holed up in our houses is that if it wasn't for OTT platforms, there was no entertainment. And
Hmm.
if wouldn't have been any entertainment, would have gone cuckoo.
Yes,
So I think what has happened is that now, earlier there was a the like the balance was a little off, that yes, the theaters would be considered as mainstream, and then OTT was like, okay, kind of not the main thing. But then in the past 18 months, I think it's become a very even playing ground, where there's a beautiful addition. Of course, the romance of theaters is always going to be there, but at the same time, now people are also looking for safety and convenience, and their choice of cinema also, and all that is getting provided on OTT. OTT, there is a convenience of you watching the film at 3 in the morning, 12 in the night, 5 in the morning, 10 in the morning, whenever you wish to. You can call your friends, you can be with your family, you can be all alone, and you can watch that film whenever you want to. You have films all across the globe in your pockets right now, where you can choose to watch whichever you want to watch to. There's no pressure that a film is going to go off the screens in one week. This Friday this film is released, and next Friday it might be altogether a different film. Especially that's going to happen because now there's going to be a surge of films coming in now that the theaters are opening up. So I think the film remains more timeless on OTT, and with the kind of film that Sardar Udham is, I think it justifies the film, to be bringing it out on Amazon Prime Video, because it's important for this film to reach out to a wider audience, to a global audience.
yes. Okay. And also just to go back to your previous answer, you mentioned how he was a carpenter, he was like a background actor on a movie. So he's also known as a master of disguises, which we learned while researching him. So was that a connect for you as an actor? Because as an actor, you do take on so many roles which are so different from who you are in real life.
It was fascinating. It was fascinating for me to know that, okay, and it's a person who was doing all this 100 years back. He was not doing it now when you have like all sorts of technology, filters, and this and that. This guy was doing it 100 years back, where there were no resources, no means, and he was just doing this all for survival and for his quest for a free India. He was hustling all across the globe. He was in the US, he was in Germany, in Russia, in London, in Italy. So, I mean, to just realize that a person was globetrotting 100 years back with different identities and different professions, it makes him a very fascinating and a very mysterious character.
Okay. Vicky, just to kind of wrap up this entire thing, you have been in the news other than the movies for other personal reasons as well. How do you, as an actor and a personality, ensure that, whatever is being talked about doesn't overshadow the work that you do as an artist?
By continuing to keep working.
Okay.
My focus is at work. It will continue to be at work. The noise around is not my responsibility. It gets created and then it gets shant all by itself. So I have my blinders on to my work, and I just keep focusing there.
You've never wanted to kind of confront or kind of put out a clarification as to all the news which is
Mostly what happens is the news guys, they come out with the news at 9 a.m. which says something, and by 4:30 they say, oh, no, 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 it's not true. So I don't need to do anything.
okay. Thank you so much, Vicky, for taking this time out to talk to us.
Thank you. Lovely talking to you, Ambika.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.